Welcome to Money on Tap. Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals' experience and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. That's what we do on this show. We look at all sides of the issues, and we bring a fully independent planning perspective to the table.
It's Money on Tap's insightful Summer Sector Series, diving into the hottest investing sectors for the season. Each week exploring a different high-growth industry, analyzing major players, market trends, and emerging opportunities, with expert guidance to make smart investments all summer long. On this week's program, Prescription for Your Portfolio, the healthcare sector. Your summer school session starts now.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. My name's Seth Pressman, and I'm here with Ben Brayshaw, Dan Mickelin. How you guys doing today?
I'm feeling okay. This is going to be a good show. My health is in good check, Dan.
Yeah, doing well here as well.
How many boxes of health have you checked so far today?
Well, we just had a lengthy conversation about the relationship between cholesterol and cancer, believe it or not. So we're checking extra boxes.
Yeah, we're branching out. You know, I'm excited about the show today because guess what? We're talking about the healthcare sector. Right. I'm excited. I need a pacemaker. That's how excited I am right now. Might be my next stock purchase. No, I mean, the healthcare sector is, it's huge. And it's growing. I mean, the demand is growing, the need is growing, the number of sicknesses in this world is growing, the number of medications and blah, blah, blah that they're serving us up is growing. And, you know, no matter where you stand on the chart, like I think about this conversation, right? Whether it's medications, you know, the COVID shot, the flu vaccine, you know, taking antibiotics, you know, or you're not doing that, you're doing pro. There's both sides of the table, you know, and I think for those people who don't want to talk about healthcare, because there's some people who get offended really about, like, I don't want to own that healthcare stock. I think they're evil. There's that side of the table. And then there's other people who are like, I do every shot, I do everything, and so forth. And it's, you know, I think we have a lot of different opinions sitting at this table. So I think that's going to be an interesting portion to our show because I think there is good medicine. I think there is bad medicine. And I think there's, you know, good doctors. And I think there's, you know, poorly practicing doctors. So, you know, and meanwhile, my wife is, you know, studied nutrition in college, certified health coach. So, you know, I've got that whole background kind of echoing through my life, which I love. And she's awesome. And I'm, you know, grateful to have her in my life. But there's extremes to everything. And I think that's one of the balancing acts I find tremendously difficult when investing in the healthcare sector. We've talked about this on a lot of different levels. And I think there's pieces to each person's personal health that gets really personal very quickly. And so I want everyone to be open to the conversation of, you know, there may be an area where the healthcare sector is going to grow. Maybe if you're not really fond of a particular company or a particular sector, maybe there is one that you are. And I'm excited about some of the subsectors we're going to talk about today and a little bit about how, you know, AI plays a space in this.
Got a part of everything these days. Yep, absolutely. This is one of the most impacted industries. There's some real excitement there from global national health perspective, but certainly on the investment side as well.
Yeah, can't have a conversation inside of finance or investing without landing it inside of AI somehow, some way. It's a part of the conversation. And it's a lot of fun. Hey, if you're new to Money on Tap, welcome. We're glad you're here. If you're coming on back, then this is a new week for you. And we're going to grab a new sector of the S&P 500's 11 sectors. And we're covering a summer sector series. And we know how many of you are just loving that we're kind of grabbing this topic. And that's what we're going to focus on here at Money on Tap is we're going to be in the healthcare sector. Now, this is RX for your portfolio, the healthcare sector. Before we do that, we do like to go ahead and get into Money in the News. But before we do that, I want to make sure that you know how you can get a hold of us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com, because there's going to be conversations here that you're going to want to continue and get deeper into with us, with your team, as you're building your finances and building your plan or continuing to grow in terms of your depth and understanding inside of finance. And some of you have been so generous with us and ask us throughout the week, hey, what you're doing, we love it. We want to support you. What can we do? There's really an opportunity for all of us to be generous here with the people that we love and care about. That's grabbing Money on Tap in the podcast world, sharing it with your friends. I mean, whether you're grabbing this episode and you're posting it on your social media, or you're going and you're finding us on Instagram and you're following us and liking us there, those are all big helps for us. We love that you're able to grab it on Spotify or the Apple Podcast world and even leave us a review there. And when you do that, it's immediate, and we get to send you out some Money on Tap gear. If you're one of those people that has a t-shirt, or I want to give it away. I mean, there's lots of different stuff that we have fun giving to you as you're giving to us. I don't want to ruin the surprise of it all, but that's a lot of fun that we get to send you out some really cool stuff. And with that, it is time for Money in the News.
From Fox Business, written by Eric Revel. Commission finds COVID pandemic caused $18 trillion in economic damage to the U.S. We talk a lot of big numbers on the show, but very rarely we get into the trillions unless we're talking about the national debt. But $18 trillion is what they've come up with for what they call the most disruptive and costly event of the 21st century, which was obviously the COVID pandemic. And they break it down like this: $8.6 trillion in damage caused by excess deaths, $1.8 trillion in lost income, $6 trillion due to chronic conditions such as long COVID, and mental health losses of $1 trillion, along with educational losses of $435 billion, to come up with that total of $18 trillion of economic debt.
Well, the only thing
destruction, not debt.
The only thing that I think is well underestimated here is the $1 trillion of mental health loss in our country. Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of mental health loss, I think, in the last 40 years. There's, I don't know about you, Dan, but I just feel like the world's gone crazy on us.
Oh, it sure has. It really has.
So, if you're crazy, admit it, like we all are. I'm a little more crazy since COVID. I'm okay with that, and you guys are living with it, and I appreciate it. This is incredible. I mean, I really think about the fact that they were able to quantify some number around this. 18 trillion. I mean, it's got to be at least 18 trillion, because we printed, 14 or 15 trillion dollars, during that time period. So, these numbers probably don't really speak to the true financial harm, in my opinion, but I do agree with every aspect of the fact that we should be taking at least 20 trillion from the Chinese government. I mean, we can simply just cancel notes.
Yeah.
Hey, we did owe you this much money, but now we don't. I think that's a real quick way to solve a lot of debt.
Take back some of our farmland too.
Yeah, and take back our farmland. All these things. Hey, listen, we'll take $2 trillion in our farmland back, thank you, and we'll take $18 trillion out of our notes gone. You don't even need to write us a check. I think that's the healthiest way to move forward here. That might be the beginning of World War III, but that would cost us less than $18 trillion. So, but this is really interesting. It's really good for us as a country. I'm glad that Fox actually broke this out to really evaluate the true damage to our economy and what's going on with this and all the different pieces. But what I love about this is that they're calling for government funding on biomedical research and related research activities connected with U.S. companies in China. Like they want these audited. I want these places audited. Do we need a COVID number 5? Yeah. If we don't put real rigidity around this stuff, and they're still doing all this stuff in the background. You got to be naive to think that, China and the U.S. have just stopped doing this stuff. Why are you creating diseases that are uncurable?
Part of the article too, and this is all formed from a report written by the Heritage Foundation, is that they do lay the blame for the pandemic at the Chinese. It literally.
Oh, you mean
takes
like
the steps.
you mean like they hit it?
Yes. But it opens. They're looking for reparations, talking about the possibility of civil suits from people who've suffered, and redoing our whole supply chain and basically cutting ties with China on at least these critical elements.
So all those years of like it was a bat and it randomly came available, that's nonsense. Not it. That's nonsense. Okay, and now I understand. I'm sorry, I missed that for the first foreseeable years of that pandemic. Seth,
I love how there was actually quite a bit of relief in the accountability of taking action towards accountability and not just sweeping things under the rug.
It just feels good reading this article. I mean, even if we're not going to get anything out of it, but it felt good reading it.
I agree.
Absolutely. The layout of it and what they covered with, for one, it's a nonpartisan commission, and the recommendations for Congress that they're laying out is the establishment of a bipartisan national COVID commission to conduct a review and the negligence and the cover up. So, having a review, having accountability, having it bipartisan, having, the ability to have civil claims against China for the harm and recommending compensation for these harms that have been created by China, and those links there, whether it was just, cover up or the biomedical research or however it happened, or just the unwillingness to, establish any kind of protocol to protect not only, their own citizens, but the rest of the world, and the fallout from it. It's enormous. I would say underreported, the numbers like you were saying, Ben. Probably just a fraction of what they really are. The effect was enormous. Of course, there's no way that we're ever going to, not have this be a part of our conversation moving forward. Even 20 years from now, 30, whatever the time frame is, it is not a blip on the radar. It is a huge deal, and we still have things like the new normal that we say, which that kind of ties into your first comment of the sanity or the medical health need there, that there's even a phrase new normal. That is insane inside of it.
The only level of insanity and the only proof of how stupid our government is we're probably going to spend $1 trillion figuring out if, what level China is really susceptible to the loss. And China doesn't value life enough to actually pay us out for this, or anybody for that matter, or their own people. They'd probably rather go to war and say, we'll spend $1 trillion or $2 trillion on war versus giving you $20 trillion. It's like, I just think that, there's no other countries doing this, or that I know of. I mean, I could be totally wrong in that. I'm speaking, but we're going to spend tons of money on this bipartisan. This article's enough. You're guilty.
Yeah.
It's like, come on.
Well, I think the term war too is one of those that if you characterize it a little differently, we already are there, and it's already happening. It's just not, with a nuke or with boots on the ground the way that we've experienced it in the past. There's a very new version of that, and we've been attacked. There have been acts of war on the U.S. companies, you name it. We can dig a lot deeper in that, and having financial reparations. And I did like several of the ideas that you threw out. That's immediately where I went to. I was like cancellation of debt. What were some of the other ones that you threw out there? I'm trying to remember.
Take our land back that they're building fake windmills on next to our military bases. I mean,
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, anyways. Boy, good one. I love this.
No weather balloons flying over our country.
Oh, shoot. Why in the world did that ever happen?
Can't figure out how to shoot that thing down. Give me a bow and arrow, folks. Come on.
I'm just need a thumbtack.
Air travel demand is breaking records, and airline profits are not. by Leslie Josephs, CNBC. Thank you very much. This was really interesting to see that there's, record travel happening, but there's not a record profit tied into that. And the airlines are such a interesting business in themselves, whether we're talking about Boeing and, gosh, the article that we covered there, those are probably most of the headlines that we're seeing over the week is around Boeing and the whether it's a criminal or civil kind of a suit, or it's a bargain that's being made in that department. But that's not even a part of what this is saying. That's really the article goes into higher payroll and other expenses that are eating into profits, and that's despite having just massive travel demand. And what was it, 3 million in one day was the new record that they set, and that's 3 million people.
Well, it's less than the number of people Boeing had killed, so that's more, sorry. No, I just joking around with Dan. I was like, Boeing's fine is like half the fine that Trump paid for, supposedly reporting twice as much square footage in his apartment or something. 450, 480, whatever, $1 billion.
400 something million. Yeah.
And they're paying $254 million and 2 people are dead. I mean, come on. What's going on? Okay, Boeing, you're in bad form here. So, this is really interesting that this many people are traveling, but it is the cost. The cost to run everything across the board is more expensive. And I think the fact that people are traveling, it's still, in my opinion, a very much, delayed. People are like, I just want to get out, because everyone's like, when's the next pandemic? When am I not going to be able to do this again? Let's take these trips before we can't. These are conversations I hear constantly. I don't know about you, Dan, but clients tell me it. My wife says it. We should do stuff before we can ever go travel again.
Yeah, people are anxious to go, and the numbers support that. Seth, you made the point. There was last Sunday, 3 million people flew in the United States domestically, which is absolutely incredible. July to July, when you take a kind of a year-by-year look, air travel's up 6%, which is substantial when you think about how many people we're talking about here. But still, the airlines, with the exception of a few outliers, are really struggling to perform in the stock market sense and turn a profit in just a simple business sense. But Delta and United are the two airlines that have been, at least stock-wise, up this year and doing okay. But the airline index overall is down 19% for the year versus the S&P 500 is up 16%. So they are seriously missing the mark.
They have waiting lists at national parks now. You have to schedule your trip and everything else. And well, not all of them, but there's a number of them I've heard. Like you can't just show up at the national park and expect to get in anymore. Yeah, there's a lot of people traveling.
A lot of the parks here that we used to be able to just go into anytime we wanted to, park and go for a hike, see the waterfall. Yeah, you have to set a reservation for that stuff now. It has been very different if you're traveling those kind of parks and those kind of taking those kind of trips. You guys, that's it for Money in the News, because we've got RX for your portfolio, the healthcare sector, coming up next. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hello, everyone. This is Dan Mickelon of Brayshaw Financial Group. Are you looking for professional guidance to kickstart your investing journey? Look no further. Brayshaw Financial Advisors are here to help. Our team of experts will provide you personalized advice tailored to your financial goals. Visit us at BrayshawFinancial.com today and schedule your free consultation. Brayshaw Financial, investing made easy.
Thank you for joining us for Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And now, more of this week's show with Ben, Seth, and Dan.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We are getting into a prescription for your portfolio, the healthcare sector. This sector covers an enormous space inside of the S&P 500, second only to technology. But to give you some idea where that lands, it's about half the size of technology. And if you're wanting to dive more into that, you can go back a few episodes and grab that. It was the first of our summer sector series that we launched. And inside of that sector, there's going to be so many different stories that, for one, are going to impact you, and two, are going to give you an opportunity to have tremendous growth if that's the possibility there for you inside of a portfolio. And as well, it could have the opposite effect too if you're just not understanding how to invest inside of this sector as well. And some of the biggest tickers, and those tickers that we talk about, are inside of the healthcare sector. These are ways that you can invest. And if you were to grab, for instance, and go research XLV, that would be a Spider Select Healthcare Fund, and that's an ETF, and that's a very broad healthcare sector ETF. Then there's the Vanguard version, the VHT. And then if you wanted to get into more of the biotechnology and start to trim down into more of a subsector inside of this space, that would be the IBB. There's a couple others here, which are the XBI, that's a Spider version of the IBB, and then the IHI, which is more like medical devices. And that's not, those are just a few of the biggest tickers out there that you would find inside of ETFs covering this space. And one of the things that you'll find, though, is that so many of these investments are not going to be identical. And sometimes there's going to be the healthcare sector overall that's doing wonderful, and some of these other subsectors that are not. So one of the goals I think we have here for you is just kind of, we're going to roll back a little bit more of the opportunities here, trying to identify some of those with you and explain a little bit more of what are some of the push to pull, the drivers in this sector as a whole. But gosh, it is a really fun sector for us to get into with you guys.
Yeah, when you think about kind of the history of the sector, this is when we broke down this statistic for the last sector that we dove into. Going back about 20 years, it made up about 8% of the weight of the S&P 500. Now it's up to 14%. So it's one of the few sectors, along with technology, obviously, that's growing at a substantial clip. Many of the other sectors have maintained relative weighting, over that 20-year period, or pretty close to it, within a point or two. But second to technology, healthcare was the biggest mover, in that space and over those years, which is, I think, something substantial. And we talk about this often when we're sitting with clients, Ben and Seth, the baby boomers, right? You never go wrong betting on that generation or investing in what they're going to need next. And as they're aging, healthcare is right at the top of that list.
Baby boomers, more and more retiring every day. We're not like at the end of it. They're not at the beginning of it. We have 20 more years of baby boomer retiring. That's crazy. I'm just thinking about, like, in the next 20 years, we're going to have between 30 and 40% of Americans retired. We're at 15-ish% now or something like that. It used to be 5% back in the early 2000s. We are an aging country, and it's a concerning issue on a lot of levels. Just from our protecting our country, and the demand for healthcare is going to grow. It is the second largest sector. And like you said, Seth, it's half the size of the technology sector. But I think they're going to be arm in arm in 15, 20 years. There's not much that's stopping the healthcare sector demand. It's like I was joking around earlier, like, we're not diabetics today, but some of us will be, there's a lot of people coming down the road that are totally healthy, but their bodies are going to start to fail in higher capacity levels that are going to need more medical attention. That's, pacemakers, valve replacements in their heart. They're going to need diabetic medication. They're going to need, heart medication. They're going to need heart transplants. They're going to need, new hips and new knees. Like, the number of people I know that are getting new knees is unbelievable. I shouldn't, and it doesn't matter how old you are. These knees last for like a really long time. I'm like, maybe I should just, beat everybody to it. I don't know, and run out of knees here in this country. So, there's just a lot going on in the healthcare sector that's almost seems like you can't go wrong. And I think that's where the danger falls in play. There's so many different pieces that say invest, invest, invest. And I do think that there's that option, but there are a lot of potential pitfalls that we could see happen in the healthcare sector that could really change things. And I think we should talk about some of the trends. We're going to get into that, and both positive and negatives. But there's a lot ahead of us.
Some of the makeup here inside of this sector is drug manufacturers, and that's around 35%. Healthcare plans is about 13%. Medical devices that Ben was rattling off several. If you haven't gotten a knee, apparently it's that time, because there's it's incredible how that technology and that has become just almost a commonplace piece where, I talked to several people too. It's like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm going down to such and such because they're, giving me a new knee. And then next month I'm going to go get the next one. And,
or the hip.
Yeah, those two.
I heard that the hip's actually an easier surgery than the knee. I don't know why.
I've heard the same, and several people that we talked to have had both of theirs done, and it's given them a new lease on life. And so thank God that that's a technology that's available and where it's at right now too. We mentioned biotechnology, that's around 12%. Then we get into diagnostics research at around 11%, medical instruments. Then these start to kind of taper off from here, but there's medical instruments, medical care facilities, drug manufacturers, medical distribution, health information service, and pharmaceutical retailers is kind of the final of all of those. And I think one of the things that we're going to continue to see is not only the growth, but we're going to see some of those subsectors take over, especially as this aging population and the needs of the aging population changes here.
Yeah, we talked about these, this aging population. That is, kind of the one big positive trend. You've got a lot of people who are going to need a lot of services. And not only is that number going to basically almost triple from the retired number today, that's 3 times the number of people all needing these services. They're going to need more of them. And people are living longer. They're living with ailments. They're living with cancer. They're living with diabetes. People on dialysis are living longer. There's, so these treatments go on longer and longer and longer. So you have, 3 times the amount of people, and everyone needs more of it. And they are living longer to the point where they're using more than historically normal. The fact that we have 2 major epidemics, one being obesity, the other being, diabetes. These are big players in that world as well. So that's not eating well plays into another drug, right? And we're talking about all these, weight loss drugs that are. I mean, we were joking around beforehand. I was like, well, I wouldn't mind taking one of those things. Maybe I look a little better and I can, cheat a little bit more on my food content.
What's hilarious about that, Ben, is Ozempic has become like it's the kids have Ozempic jokes. I'm sitting there listening to them, go back and forth at the dinner table this last weekend with each other, and they've got, Ozempic jokes. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is like, I can hardly say the word. And I'm like 5 months ago, I'm like, what are we talking about? Who's got what?
I'm not going to take a scoop of ice cream. I'll just take the half gallon.
Yeah.
And I'll take that shot. So, I mean, these are all major issues, and, diabetes being right behind that. And, we have all this, it's all positive. Like, hey, we have new drug development. We've got new advances in surgical equipment and, how they do surgeries. Like, people are in and out of the hospital for like major surgeries, and they become day events, not week events, right? I mean, we have so much progress going on. We were just, talking about how, hearing loss will be something, of the past in 20 years, the development that's going on in that space. There's so much of this and more. So what are the, I think that's the big thing. Like, hey, guys, the positive. But now it's time for the negatives, because there's some big things that could throw a major wrench inside the healthcare, pharmaceutical investing space.
Yeah, and the biggest threat is, something that, people are longing for here in this country, but it's the single payer system, right? Yeah, I'm with you on that. But, the whole notion of, Medicare for all and having our government fully fund medical costs is a massive threat to these private industries and these businesses. I mean, that's talk about an absolute nightmare in a billing scenario. I mean, trying to negotiate with the government over every single thing. That's where this would all be pointed at, and that's probably the biggest threat.
Well, that and the care. Like, I mean, look at Canada. I mean, people come to America to get care constantly just because we're closer. I mean, they'd probably fly to Europe if they could, but people just drive over the border. They'll get care here because they're going to wait months. I had a friend who tore his ACL or something like that. It took him 6 months to go see the doctor. By the time the doctor saw him, he said, well, if I had seen you like 3 or 4 months ago when it first happened, we could probably repair it, but you're going to have a lifelong injury now. I mean, this is no joke. And I think no one wants to really pay for anything. And so, the burden's been thrown to the employer. The employer has then thrown back a portion of the burden to the, employee. And then all of a sudden, guess what? Everyone doesn't want to pay anything. No one wants to pay a bill. So why doesn't the government handle it? That sounds good, but nobody really does the research of quality of care, because that's the biggest issue. And if you don't have quality care, you're not going to sell these drugs. You're not going to sell the new knee replacement. They're going to say, you know what? You walk well enough. You have to have this much of a stagger before we replace your knee.
You're actually touching on something that has affected me and my family personally. Like our doctor, our general practitioner, or the guy that we went and saw for whatever it was. He was our first doctor that we contacted. Had to me, what looked like a very well-established, young, thriving practice. And we got a letter last summer. We got one in the mail, and then we got emails, each of us, basically letting us know that because the insurance companies were not paying, and also the patients were not paying their portion. Like you said, nobody wants to pay, but that includes, and let me finish that thought. Apologize, I kind of just stopped. He had to close up shop. Had to. Could not continue to keep his practice going. And I don't know where he's at today, but we loved him. We felt like after, what person after another and transfer after another, we finally got somebody that would be able to see us, take great care of us, knew who we were, and now we're in that. It's a battle to try to find that next person that we can get in and see. And also, we're going to have some continuity and trust and relationship there with.
That's why I think these telemed things, like whether you like it or not, you're not going to see your doctor in person very much. It's going to be, here's your 15-minute, and they're going to be bouncing from Zoom to whatever they're using, because there's not enough medical professionals to even care. And the healthcare sector the insurance sector is literally pushing these private practices out, which is forcing everything to become very centralized in larger corporations, because they're the only ones big enough to fight the insurance companies to actually pay the bills.
Well, here's one that I'm kind of baffled by. I went to, get my vitamins from GNC. And, of course, they got me signed up for whatever their premium GNC thing was, because I was saving, 40% that day or something. It seemed like a great deal for whatever they're doing. And in that packet of information that I walked home with my vitamins, there is a telemed in there, and it's included. And I'm like, holy cow, wait a second. GNC has a telemed option? And I'm baffled by this. Like, do I trust that relationship now? Is that who's going to actually provide the advice I need over the phone to take care of the things that might be major?
I love the fact that he said he walked home from GNC. Like, how healthy could you possibly be? I mean,
I'll
Seth,
take it.
You didn't drive home from GNC. It's like you walked the 25 miles. From store to store.
Well, the question is, why weren't you running, Seth?
Yeah, why weren't you running?
Frankly, my home is. I can't afford health care anymore.
How heavy were those vitamins? Were
my
they
vehicle, and I live in the parking lot, so that's as far as I had to go.
I walked home from GNC. Oh man. Well, I think this national healthcare system fear is going to happen to us at some point, or some version of this, which really kills the capitalistic viewpoint of like finding the right man. I mean, we talked about, people know I was injured by, some vaccine shots when I was a kid. So I never got the shot. That's a public, declaration of where I actually had paralysis from it. And so, we opted out of the shot for our, own health and my experiences, and our doctor had recommended that was probably the right direction for us. And, So I'm not a proponent of the shot in general because of what I've personally experienced. I get that that's not everyone's story, and that's okay. But there's two different sides to this whole thing, because I look at what pharmaceuticals have done for, a lot of illnesses and have saved lots of lives in lots of different ways, right? I mean, I think about penicillin. Before we had penicillin, people were dying of, kind of some simple infections at times, that we couldn't seem to get under wraps. And we created enemies out of things that have saved families, and we've, and then there's drugs that, it's like, hey, man, these things have hurt people, and there's side effects. I mean, I had minor in chemistry, and we talk about all the different, that's another life of mine, but, talk about all the different moving parts of chemical reactions and things that happen. So I find the pharmaceutical world very interesting, and I think there's really a count your cost scenario. Like, do I really need to be thinner, or do I really just need to be more responsible about how I eat? I'm not going to, go start popping a pill to lose weight. But there's a lot of people out there that, medically need that because the stress on their heart or their legs or their joints or there's something really wrong and they need that kind of thing. I totally get that. The reward outweighs, the fear of losing your life. So these are big conversations that I think our world is having on a daily basis, and we're all afraid to talk about it. Did you get the shot? Did you not get the shot? Are you on this team or that team? It's like, this is a personal decision, but when it comes into the investment world, I know you guys see it. Oh, I don't want to own that company. They're evil. Well, did you know that company makes X, Y, and Z too? It's like, I really don't think invasive, surgery is a certain point. Some people don't believe in putting anything else in their body, like there no stents. They don't want to use any other organs that aren't their own. There's lots of sort of like very religious, scenarios of various sects, whether it's, Muslim or whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be Christian. It's just, there's lots of people who have lots of rigidity about how you handle your health and what you can and can't do. And so that is also a complication. It's like gambling or investing in, alcohol or tobacco companies for some people. It's that level of concern, and I think that's great. And I think we're going to dig more into that as we, move into the next step.
Hey, you guys, this is a fantastic conversation, and we're going to have a lot more coming your way in just a little bit. In the meantime, why not go over and subscribe to Money on Tap? And thank you very much for doing that and leaving us a review. When you do, make sure that you let us know at info@yourmoneyontap.com, because we want to send you out some Money on Tap gear. And what an awesome platform and timing this is for me and for us at Brayshaw Financial Group and Money on Tap, because guess what? We are ambassadors of Real Men Wear Pink. And I say we, it's me. I'm trying to get Ben and Dan on board here. They'll be here certainly. But what does that mean? That means American Cancer Society is in October going to be really doing a breast cancer awareness push. We're getting a head start on that. Right now, you can actually go to my personal page and become a donor to American Cancer Society. That's an awesome way for you to not only just be able to help out people that really need to experience help, that are going through cancer or families are going through cancer, to be able to get the services they need, as well as there's research, and as well as there's something really cool I just learned about. It's really kind of getting ahead and pushing through the system, that big, massive system that doesn't seem to want to budge, things that can really save lives. For instance, you can have a very simple test that can tell you, hey, you have a very, very high risk of having this kind of cancer. Why don't you now know that you can get a test to tell you you're at risk? You can get ahead of that instead of waiting for whatever the time frame is to get that test. It can all be included inside of the services that really are available and can be provided on an ongoing basis. Maybe that didn't make the most sense the way I described it, but it's a really awesome opportunity for you to get involved and become a part of the light and a part of the difference, and making a difference in American Cancer Society, becoming an ambassador or doing whatever, or just going and donating to my page for Real Men Wear Pink. You guys, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with the prescription for your portfolio, the healthcare sector.
Called your doctor, woke him up, said, "Doctor, ain't there nothing I can take?" I said, "Doctor, to relieve his bellyache." I said, "Doctor, ain't there nothing I can take?" I said, "Doctor,
Hey guys, Seth Cressman with Brayshaw Financial Group. Are you ready to take control of your financial future? Look no further than Brayshaw Financial Group. Our team of experienced advisors is dedicated to helping beginners like you build wealth through smart investing strategies. Visit BrayshawFinancial.com today and start your journey towards financial independence. Brayshaw Financial Group, your partner in wealth creation.
We appreciate you listening to Money on Tap with Ben, Seth, and Dan. You can contact us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And now, more of this week's program.
Doctor, my eyes, tell me what is wrong, 'cause I'm wise to leave them open for so long.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Yes, we are in prescription for your portfolio, the healthcare sector. And gosh, we had so much fun on that last segment, just kind of talking about personal stories and the opportunities and the challenges that we find inside of the healthcare investment world. And there are a ton of opportunities. And I think that's one of the things that really makes it so exciting for us to see, is because there is so much growth. And, there's, not only growth in terms of the supply and the demand story with the aging population, but there's also growth because technology is like right there it's like hand in hand. Healthcare is pushing technology and the limits of technology, as well as tech is involved in a way with healthcare that they just cannot. They work together so beautifully. There are lots of different subsectors inside of this. And Dan, you're going to go ahead and get us into some of what those are and how that may play out. I think one of them that I'm just going to go ahead and throw out there that a lot of people kind of forget about. And what I love about this, when they see it, is the lights kind of go on and they get it. And that's how real estate can be married inside of the healthcare sector as well. And especially when we have this aging population that's pushing through, and how critical that real estate is for them to be able to transition and care for the needs that are increasing. But the other side of that as well is that the healthcare is getting so darn good that when my mother-in-law this last week went into the hospital and got 4 stints, got it in, it was 4th of July weekend or everything's going great. Couldn't get from one campsite to the nether. And then she gets into the hospital and boom, she's got, 4 stints and she's walking out the next day. There sometimes isn't as much of a need for the real estate inside of this as well.
They certainly do turn you out of these places really quick these days, but there is always seemingly someone else looking for that room and on the way in. So it's the real estate is certainly a play here, and there's no doubt that these facilities and all the equipment required and the steady flow of patients. I mean, there's a lot of buildings that are part of this, and that certainly is kind of a sliver of the sector you can find a way to get invested in and of itself. You can uniquely invest in medical real estate, fairly easily. But the other sectors, the other subsectors that are able to be kind of dissected and invested in, on their own right, is in the insurance space, medical facilities. Then there's the medical devices and suppliers, everything from the surgical tools to the rubber gloves to the pacemakers, the orthotics. I mean, really, that's a wide-ranging field there. And then there's 2 other we kind of lump into one, which is, the pharma and the biotech industry. So these are people, doing research and development, focusing on, medication specifically and how it interacts with the body. But that sector, kind of them all, has a bit of a unique threat. Medical devices as well. And we spoke about the political risks of the single-payer system, but those subsectors are, particularly exposed to regulatory risk, specifically the FDA. If you're out there building a product or developing a medicine and you go through these series of trials, we see this stuff all the time in the news about, trying to stay ahead of the next best pharma investment. all you hear about is clinical trials, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Well, if they don't get that FDA stamp in the end, then that's a massive loss.
That's why they buy them off.
Yeah, well, some way it's got to work.
Yeah, you know what? You won't pass it. I'll give you $1 million. I'll give you 10 million. I'll give you 100 million. You're right. Regulatory risk is huge. I mean, regulatory risk is not just the FDA. It could be if we have a national healthcare system, it's whatever regulation it's going to be over that. And I think that's really where a lot of people are concerned because, as I was speaking about my friend up in Canada and that whole knee issue, not being able to get the care he needed to really get fully recovered. He's now got an injury for life. If that becomes the U.S. medical system, it's because of regulation. It's hey, try this med, try everything before we just do what we have to do. And we like to think that wouldn't be the case, but the truth is that is the case in most national healthcare systems. It's hard to get the right care when you want. I mean, that's why people in the United States travel elsewhere sometimes because they just want to get better care. The U.S. has good health care, but it doesn't have great health care. I think that's one of the things that a lot of people are concerned about. Like you look at some of the things going on in Europe, it's pretty incredible, Germany and so forth. I think the regulatory risks weigh as a huge cloud over the healthcare sector. So how do you invest in the healthcare sector if that's the case? I mean, that's really the question, right? So what I look at it's easier for a doctor to prescribe a pill than it is for him to do a surgery. So at that point in time, it's going to be a lot of, that kind of medication and medical advice through telemed, which would be the least expensive, less facilities. These people will be sitting in cubicles. You'll have doctors who went to med school sitting in cubicles.
If you're even talking to a doctor, you're probably talking to AI half the time.
That too. So, you've got all these different pieces going on, but the truth is it's going to be try this pill first, try this PT first, and then 6 months, 8 months, 9 months down the road, it's going to be like, okay, you still can't walk. Now you've tried the cane, like whatever. Okay, we'll replace the knee. Because that's where I think now is the demand because of the population and the baby boomers retiring and the need for all this stuff going to grow and more knees sold and more hips sold and yes, but profit margins, area of least resistance, they'll control the profit margins on that stuff. But if they're selling 1,000 times more of these things, then it's going to be a lot more money. So that's a big issue inside this.
You are listening to Money on Tap. We're going to take a quick break, but when we get back, we're going to get into some AI. Can't wait. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Be right back.
Are you looking for personalized guidance to kickstart your investing journey? Look no further. Brayshaw Financial Group and our planners are here to help. Our team of experts will provide personalized advice tailored to your financial goals. Visit BrayshawFinancial.com today to schedule your free consultation. Brayshaw Financial, investing made easy.
You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And now, more Money on Tap with Ben, Seth, and Dan.
Doctor, feel good. Yeah, that man takes care of all of my pains and my ills. His name is Dr. Feel Good.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Yeah, we are talking about the prescription for your portfolio, the healthcare sector. It is the booming industry inside of the healthcare landscape. And with that, we could not pass up an opportunity to talk about the AI revolution. Revolution, you know what I mean. The role of artificial intelligence in healthcare and how this is really redefining landscape inside of and transforming the landscape inside of drug discovery and development, medical imaging, analysis, diagnostics, personalized medicine, and patient care. The benefits are numerous, and it's going to be just awesome to see what happens here. And, just this last week, I was actually listening to a podcast Imagine that, podcasters going out and listening to podcasts. And the guy that I loved was Jay Shetty. He's On Purpose is his podcast, and he interviewed Naveen Jain, somebody I'm not even familiar with, but it was awesome. What he was talking about is a way to dig in, and using AI to dig into understanding the microbiome and your genetics and what kind of a difference that makes, so that you can get really granular and take a test and know what supplements you need, what foods to stay away from, really hacking that code. And this is a part of that AI journey and the healthcare journey for us moving forward, is to be able to step aside and not have to just wait for the doctor to diagnose or prescribe.
Yeah, and there's a couple of real players in the AI healthcare space. Some companies that have chosen to make major investments there. And there's a couple that we want to kind of talk about and highlight here. One of them is Intuitive Surgical, who is using AI tools to develop essentially robots to perform surgeries, right? So they're very heavily investing in the hardware technical end of this to have these devices be the ones actually conducting the surgeries at times. And that's
I got to ask, do you feel safer with that?
It's basic surgery.
Yeah, I don't know which exact ones they're getting into here, but yeah, I would probably not want to be told that till I came out,
If you come out.
Yeah. But that's ticker ISRG.
Don't give me any authority over that, Dan. I've unplugged that robot.
Ben is not my power of attorney.
Oh man, well, AI. I know I interrupted you, Dan. I'm sorry, but it's always fun. So I think this was the most amazing thing about AI to me, and all what you guys are talking about is pretty incredible. But I highlighted in this one thing I read. In the U.S., the $23 billion was spent in 2023 for AI. They think by 2032, okay, like 9 years from now, they're expecting $431 billion. That's a 38.2% compounded growth in spending. That's incredible. And I think all the things you're talking about with this AI and what it's doing inside the medical, I think we've seen nothing yet. I mean, like Seth, what you're talking about and figuring out what you need to eat and having a robot, cut your appendix out, like really these kind of very, very simple surgeries, they're not complicated. The diabetes, even, Stryker Corp, the medical devices, they're literally using AI in all of these things. And for regulatory matters that we just talked about to streamline costs, one of, I have one client who works in the world of figuring out medically what the best processes are based on, the first 5 symptoms. So their company they work with, they figure out, hey, you've got these symptoms. Everybody that had these symptoms, they did these 5 tests, the ones that got them to the end result the fastest. So they eliminate all these extra tests, and there's all this stuff. It's really incredible. And then now AI is being used to, figure more of that out faster and just even find, things that we can't necessarily see intuitively, like, hey, what, that mathematically is not necessarily necessary either, but this one should be done because it can rule out 5 other things, and that's where it's worth spending the money. This stuff is incredible.
I don't know. I'm excited, and the AI conversation continues to get me really excited. I can see the costs for this kind of procedure in the medicine really leveling it off. Like, again, technology bringing cost down would be ultimately the game changer, I think, inside of that, as well as preventative kind of opportunities to bypass, like you were talking about, misdiagnosing people and procedures happening on the correct leg. That would be nice if you went in for the left knee and they did the left knee instead of the right. Maybe there's something inside of that. You guys, we are having we're just having the time of our lives with you guys, and we cannot wait to be here this next week with you as we get more into the Summer Sector series. You've been listening to Money on Tap, the prescription for your portfolio, the healthcare sector. You guys, make it a great week. Be successful in your investing, and we'll see you here next week on Money on Tap.
All season long, it's Money on Tap's Summer Sector Series, each week exploring a different high-growth industry, analyzing major players, market trends, and emerging opportunities. Join us again next week for more smart, sizzling investment opportunities here at Money on Tap. The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of this radio station and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. No strategy, product, material, or tool mentioned can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information, products, materials, or tools mentioned should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. This show may be subsidized in whole or in part by a product sponsor or issuer. Securities and advisory services offered through Osaic Wealth Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor. All other services offered through Brayshaw Financial Group LLC are independent of Osaic Wealth Incorporated. Osaic Wealth Incorporated and Brayshaw Financial Group do not provide tax or legal advice. Main office is located at 116 South River Road, Bedford, New Hampshire 03110, and can be reached at toll-free 855-226-8551.
Well, bye.